All right, hello, Zeteo here. We're doing another replay analysis casting at 1.5 times speed. Let's set the speed to 1.5 right now. There we go. All right, so let's get into it. Yeah. All right, so we got Wraxell spawned at the bottom position here. Is my music even working? Oh, okay, there it goes. Jesus. Okay, so we got Wraxell spawned at the bottom position here as our blue Armada player, and we got Barcast spawned at the top left as our red Cortex player. Looks like he's going to be going bots against our Armada vehicles, and this is kind of an interesting thing because you don't typically see this, at least not with the current patch. But yeah, it's good to test stuff and just see how it goes. Cortex bots are seen as a little bit weaker because they turn around a little bit slower than they used to, whereas they used to be dominant. And they're a little bit more expensive than they used to be as well. Now, blitzes did get a buff. They're buffed compared to what they used to be. So I feel like the blitzes should do pretty good here, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes and just see how the matchup happens, because I haven't really been seeing a lot of this lately. And I think that's primarily because, Armada vehicle is seen as a little bit weaker because they don't, I think they don't fare quite as well against pawns, and I think that they, don't fare well against incisors, but against grunts, maybe they do. And we don't really see a lot of grunts typically because they're seen as a little bit weaker than pawns, and they're seen as weaker than incisors as well. So we'll just have to wait and see how this actually pans out. We do have a couple of constructors out here for Wraxell going out and doing the stuffs. Meanwhile, Barcast already moving his commander out to, to expand with, has boosted out a construction turret. And yeah, so taking a little bit of a hit on metal economy at first, but with his commander out so quickly, I think he'll be able to recover that. Now, his expansion pattern is a little bit strange here, I feel. I feel like it's a little bit weird going for this cluster of 3, but, you kind of want to boost your metal economy as much as possible early on. He's even reclaiming the solar to, get a little bit of metal back now that he doesn't quite need it with the wind a little bit higher than it used to be. But yeah, 2 cons out and his commander expanding. Nano turret for boosting his lab. Meanwhile, Wraxell still with his commander at his base. Hasn't built on a construction turret. So yeah, just actually pumping out a lot of these rovers. A couple of cons out to expand. And now that his metal's in a good spot, he just needs to work on a little bit of energy and probably work on, construction turrets soon thereafter. So a little bit of a weird thing for Wraxell at the moment, as his metal's working up a little bit high, and you don't really want to do that this early on. Just means that Wraxell isn't going to have as much pressure as he could otherwise. But then again, he does have rovers out, and these rovers are able to maybe find some damage because they are just so fast compared to these grunts. So maybe you can find something, but unfortunately, so far, no dice. So yeah, Wraxell even adding on a solar at this point because his energy is in, some problems here. He does have actually 4 cons out expanding. So wow, he's actually like going crazy with it. I can see why now he wouldn't want to build that construction turret, because it's just like with all those cons expanding, it's very rough. Whatchamacallit? It's very rough having enough units out to defend such a large area and such rapid growth. So wanting to have that commander boosting instead as much as possible is a good call, of course. But yeah, I think it's up to Barcast to make sure that he's applying enough pressure to keep, keep Wraxell down. This expansion growth is very, very rapid. And so he's got to be really careful. Now, there aren't any LTs up here quite yet. There's one being produced. I think it's going to be done by the time this grunt gets here, or at least soon thereafter. So I think he's going to take minimal amounts of damage. But at the same time, the grunt did pick off that location there. He could have maybe run around with it and done some damage, but that is very APM intensive. And Barcast is not really the APM kind of, the high APM kind of guy, looking just to like send units across and do the macro portion of the micro instead of the micro portion of the micro. So big picture micro, and making sure that his macro is on points is where he's spending the majority of his APM, which is good. That's like perfect. If you don't have the APM, spend it where it matters most, not on the little tiny details of micro. Anyways, yeah, these grunts coming in here trying to do something, but yeah, there's plenty of blitzes in the area. He could maybe try to run up the hill, but decides not to. Meanwhile, you know, there are some blitzes on the bottom here. You know, just to maybe run up towards Barcast base, but Barcast is doing a nice job just having LTs kind of everywhere in these positions. So, you know, while these blitzes can take out, you know, those positions, you don't really want to just throw them away either. You want to keep them alive so you grow a bigger and bigger force. So just kind of future-proofing a little bit, and especially since Wraxell has gone so heavy into expansions, you know, his thought should be on defense because he's spending so much more on his economic growth. And yeah, maybe Barcast just not reading the situation enough here. And yeah, this is kind of rough too, just losing these solars. Yeah, both players actually working up a lot of metal, especially Barcast at this point in time. I think his metal is just a bit too heavy here. It's a good amount of solars. This is, you know, a map where the wind doesn't, you know, isn't crazy, so some solars is certainly fine as you build your economy, and you can always, like, you know, reclaim them later on and get some of that metal back as you spend your metal. But yeah, lots of labs here for Barcast. He's even now going into an air lab, so it's bot, vehicle, and air. So the trifecta is complete, and I think with the air adding on, you know, it's kind of working into the time of the game where, like, you need to consider, you know, like, well, your opponent could very well have air, so I wonder what Wraxell is going to do with that. But yeah, with vehicles, you don't typically work up as much metal, so you know, Wraxell just mostly just spending really well on just the vehicles. Yeah, blitzes and medium tanks coming up here, trying to do some damage here. The medium tanks doing a nice job, of course, tanking for the blitzes. Of course, we also see that some of the blitzes not partaking in the battle, so a little bit unfortunate for Wraxell. And yeah, some of them are just kind of sitting here, so that, yeah, unfortunately he's just going to lose this, I think. The shurikens come up, start stunning, and now the air is revealed, so we'll have to see if, yeah, there's an air lab here for Wraxell, and he's reclaiming some of these solars. I mean, he invested a lot into solars, it looks like, but he's got to be careful because, you know, air does cost a lot of energy. But yeah, I think the ground force should be going towards Wraxell's favor a little bit, but look at this. Barcast has actually done a good job, like, catching up in terms of economy, despite, you know, Wraxell doing such a strong economic opener. Yeah, shurikens coming out. I think that makes it really difficult for Wraxell to defend this location. A little bit APM stalled, not moving his units backwards to help, you know, kite and do some extra damage. Kind of unfortunate. He is going to be joining forces with this group here, and then all of a sudden you're going to have this big frontal force, and this is where Wraxell's commander is. So I wonder if Barcast is going to be looking to snipe or what. You know, so far Wraxell, you know, not really seeing the units until just now. There's plenty of fighters in the air as well, just in case that there's some kind of, you know, defensive airplay. And okay, I guess we're just gonna sit here for a moment. You do need to be really careful when trying to assault a commander. The D-guns can certainly, you know, make or break that. Like, if your D-guns are really good, you know, like, you can say that Barcast probably doesn't quite have enough if the D-guns are really good. And so both players just kind of being cautious about this play here in the center. And, you know, Barcast, of course, you know, trying to do damage in various other locations. We do have a raid at the top from Wraxell as well, as this battle, you know, continues on or starts, I guess. But yeah, unfortunately for Barcast, a lot of those grunts just kind of sitting as fodder as his attention is elsewhere. And now these medium tanks easily taken out by all these medium tanks by Wraxell. So I think this is a really nice win for Wraxell. But again, Barcast has the map. He has the economy. Actually, I say that, and Wraxell, you know, pulling even here as both players are actually dead even for the moment. Barcast commander's actually in trouble here. He's got to get those nice deguns off, but I'm not sure. It's getting really, really low here. Just not enough shurikens and medium tanks to defend it, but actually it does get out with that cloak. Barcast coming in here, maybe threatening Wraxell's commander. And with the Shuri support, you know, he can certainly shut down a lot of these medium tanks, but he's got to be careful with the deguns, but Wraxell doesn't have the energy for it. So with that in mind, I think, you know, Wraxell's got to be really careful, decides to back up his commander, and now these shurikens with the air support are doing some good work on these medium tanks. And as long as Barcast like takes some nice trades with the shurikens, okay, some anti-air was built on by Wraxell, so you know, I think it's going to be you know, pushed back pretty well now that the shurikens are out of the picture. And yeah, zooming out here, Barcast trying to do some damage on the right-hand side. He's got this force here. He's got this force from the top as well. So just kind of attacking from all these different directions and keeping Wraxell guessing. Meanwhile, Wraxell sending all those forces forward, looking for that commander, knowing that it's hurt, but the commander going up this high ground, he can, of course, cloak and just like stay out of trouble. And yeah, Wraxell decides to move his army directly into Barcast's base, but this is going to be really tricky with this, you know, things like this pounder coming out here doing some good splash damage. These medium tanks are going to be dealt with pretty easily. And now the commander coming back, you know, there isn't that many medium tanks left, so he can certainly decon a lot of it if he's careful. And yeah, that commander is so low there. He's got to be real careful with that. But yeah, the medium tanks on the right-hand side are going to be cleaned up now, and Wraxell has a sizable force pushing up that direction, as well as these forces on the left-hand side picking up these mexes. And I wonder if there's any transitions quite yet. We do have the some more Shuris that were added on to help deal with the defense here. But yeah, so far no T2, or maybe the T2 is going to be coming up shortly here as we see that's vehicle plant being reclaimed. I wonder if there's a T2 over here. Not quite yet, just 2 vehicle labs and an air lab. Or air plants and vehicle plants. They're plants, not labs. I gotta remember that. Or we could just call them factories, production facilities. But yeah, lots of medium tanks for Wraxell on the right-hand side. We got some in the middle here, posing a big threat. We got some at the top as well. And I think Barcast is going to be losing a lot of his position here because he has all of his forces primarily on the left-hand side here. Wraxell just doing a good job kind of being everywhere at this point in time. You know, Barcast is sending what he can to the top here to help defend, but he's got to worry about 2 different sides here. And the shurikens kind of have to prioritize this before they get into the base. So shutting this down, you know, very, very important here for Barcast. And he's moving what looks like to be all of his medium tanks, or at least a very big majority, to help deal with this. And I wonder if this leaves an opportunity, an opportunity for Wraxell to go into T2 and just start building on T2 weapons here. Now, this is kind of unsafe to some degree, because if you're being that aggressive and trading your medium tanks for economy, and you know, as the defender you should be taking better trades than your opponents, well, now the defender of that engagement has more forces out, and if the attacker is doing a T2 transition, now they're going to be a little bit unsafe. It's safe in a way because you just applied so much pressure that your opponent's back, but now they have more forces than you. Now they have that reclaim to work with, to resurrect, and now it's going to be very difficult for Wraxell to deal with it. And so I'd like the play of going T2 in that moment, but I wonder if it's worth it to stay on T2. I wonder if it's better to maybe go back into that double vehicle play and, you know, and just have that constructor out making those T2 mexes. And with that, then you can produce enough units to maybe be at more places to defend your wide territory. But yeah, I think as it is, Barcast is going to get in here with a lot of medium tanks on this right-hand side. Actually, a lot of them sitting back defensively. You know, maybe not sure of where to go from here, but Barcast is kind of everywhere at the moment because he has that army advantage with the you know, just not spending the money on the T2 lab. And now that the aggression is on Wraxell's side, and now that Wraxell doesn't have a T1 lab to produce a lot of units with, he's going to have to sit defensively for quite a while here, and that's going to allow Barcast to do a T2 transition of his own, start working on fusion, start working on, you know, a lot of infrastructure types of stuff. And I think Wraxell is in significant amounts of damage here because there's just too many medium tanks from Barcast. And I've seen this like so many times, but like, you know, it's one of those things that I think, you know, even higher level players sometimes forget, or maybe they don't quite quite know that, you know, during that transition, you're going to be so weak, and the units that you're popping out are strong, but they're not going to be able to deal with, you know, things on the wider scale of things because there's just not enough of them. And so, you know, Wraxell here just taking massive amounts of damage because of all the leftover forces from Barcast. Yeah, I think that pretty much closes out our game, but I mean, Wraxell can certainly, you know, pull something out of a hat here. He has a lot of metal banked up, so it's really up to how he spends it. If he's able to get up a big enough force to kind of return the favor and deal massive amounts of damage to Barcast, then he can certainly still win. And then there's, of course, always the possibility of a commander snipe if the commander's not in a solid position. So Barcast being smart, of course, you know, being a good player, moving his commander back, making sure that his T2 expansions are being upgraded quickly with that extra build power from the commander, but also having the commander in the back to help safeguard against, you know, big plays like this coming up here. So Wraxell, you know, running forward with his medium tanks is going to be a nice strong push. Don't get me wrong. You know, Barcast needs to muster a force big enough to deal with that. And I wonder if it's going to be any Banishers or if it's just going to be, you know, Tiger spam in a way to help deal with this. Now, Bulls are a strong force, especially in numbers, but they can be shuried, they can be stunned, and so like those Tigers can really, you know, shut this down with that in mind. So I think Barcast here doing a really nice job, you know, just completely making sure that Wraxell can't do anything about that massive amount of damage that he's like. There's even some leftover units here that Barcast forgot about for a little bit. He's now sending them, and there's the tap out from Wraxell. You know, just after that amount of damage, you need to be able to do damage back. Wraxell's feeling under the gun, sends his bulls forward, but the Shuris and whatnot, you know, shut it down. So Barcast doing a nice job just kind of making sure that, you know, just utilizing the fact that that strong play from bulls just can't deal with things like shurikens. So shutting it down, you know, having your own Tigers to, you know, run in there, make sure that the bulls are killed off, yada yada, you know, just kind of help the Barcast stay alive there. But yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit shorter game. It was certainly kind of interesting with you know, the T2 play and all that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and stick around for some more. Thanks for watching.